Easy A, Heterosexuality and Sexual Expression. Project by Lauren Dilleth. The film Easy A addresses sexuality in many different ways, but mostly the focus is heterosexuality. This film focuses around a young girl named Olive who pretends to have sex with a friend who is gay that doesn't want to be bullied anymore, and after she pretends to have sex with him, her reputation is completely changed because of it. A few of the guys find out that the rumor of her having sex with her friend was fake and she actually didn't sleep with him, and they begin to start to ask her to pretend to sleep with them, and they pay her in gift cards and other items. Once she starts pretending to sleep with these other boys, her reputation is completely changed, but the reputation of the boys is changed for the better. While she is shamed for sleeping with these different people, the boys are praised for doing the exact same thing. Another issue this movie addresses is the relationship between Christianity and sex and how Christians view sex. In the movie, there is a Christian group that vows to not have sex and to save themselves for marriage. But in the movie, you actually find out that one of the boys who is in the group is actually sleeping with his guidance counselor and cheating on his girlfriend. The reason this is one of the bigger parts of the movie is because the Christian group finds out that Olive is supposedly having sex with all of these boys and is constantly shaming her for her actions. So this Christian group is calling her a slut, in other words, while one of the members of the group is actually doing the same thing as her, but happens to be a male, which demonstrates the difference between the treatment of males and females and how they choose to express their sexuality, particularly heterosexuality. This subject relates to our course because we read about and discussed how boys and girls have different expectations in the heterosexual world. Boys are expected to have sex early on, while girls are expected to not. In an article by Kelly James, Sexual Pleasure, this issue is addressed at the end. The expectations that society places on boys and girls will affect how they feel pleasure. The movie doesn't take it this far, but Olive is treated differently and begins to not want to pretend to sleep with these boys anymore because of the way she's being treated. We also talked about sex and power in the course and how heterosex in particular is seen as men dominating women. This movie demonstrates this very well. The boys in the film are pretending to sleep with Olive and are demonstrating their masculinity, which is related to their power. The more girls the boys sleep with, the more power they have, while the opposite happens for Olive. As she pretends to sleep with more guys, her reputation is ruined, and the guys demonstrate their power over her by calling her terrible names. We also discussed in our course the subject of morality and how sex relates to it. Sexual morality is seen by Christians in particular as having heterosex between a man and a woman, and this sex only occurring in a marriage. This movie shows that Christian view. As I mentioned before, there's a Christian group who vows to save themselves until marriage in the movie. This group is the group that consists of the people who are shaming Olive for her sexual experiences, or the pretend experiences, with multiple guys. Because this group views that sex should be saved for marriage, they look down upon Olive because she is doing what they believe to be morally wrong. One of the articles that we read, called Purity and Pollution, did a really good job at breaking down sexual morality. When this group in the movie is calling Olive gross or slutty, etc., they're saying something about themselves in comparison to her. They are insinuating that they are better than her because they are not having sex. The Christian group in the movie, especially the main girl, is very adamant about this. She makes it known that she is saving herself until marriage and that she thinks what Olive is doing is completely terrible. The movie did a pretty good job at showing the differences between how society views guys and girls in the heterosexual world who are having sex. The movie really made it clear that boys were benefiting from having sex while Olive was not. Olive was not only receiving hate from the Christian group, but even her favorite teacher expressed his concern for her, and her best friend turned on her. I think the movie did a fantastic job showing what it is like in high school when you are thought to be sexually active. It really gets people thinking about society's standards for boys and girls. The movie also did a great job demonstrating the concept of sexual purity and how hypocritical it may be. While Christians are meant to love everyone for who they are, sometimes they do quite the opposite. This movie shows how sometimes this happens and that simply because Olive is having sex, this group of Christians attempts to ruin her reputation in order to further their beliefs that one should save themselves for marriage. The opinion that the end of this movie is problematic is held by me and many other people. Now, while it is presented throughout the movie that the boys are treated better than Olive, even though both Olive and the guys are having sex, the movie makes it clear that the only reason Olive should not be treated poorly is because she is just pretending to be having sex. She isn't a slut, she isn't gross, but only because she isn't actually sleeping with multiple guys. At the end of the movie, she reveals that she wasn't sleeping with those guys and that it was all a big lie, and then she rides away with her new boyfriend. So throughout the movie, she doesn't care what anyone thinks of her. Everyone tells her shouldn't be sleeping around and that she should have a monogamous relationship, and in the end, she does. This sends out the message to people who are watching it that number one, if you are actually sleeping with multiple people, you are a slut and you deserve to be called one by society's standards. And number two, monogamous relationships are the norm and are what people should have. The movie didn't end with Olive deciding not to be in a relationship as she originally wanted. She abided by the rules of society and she got into a relationship instead of sleeping around. I don't think that the movie completely got it right because it still perpetuates gender stereotyping in the case of sexual expression. It should have been made clear that even if Olive was having sex, she did not deserve to be called a slut and to have her reputation ruined because of it. While this movie is a big step in changing the way heterosexual men and women are treated based on their sexual history, it's not 100% there yet. The movie could have ended with Olive addressing the differential treatment of her and the guy she was pretending to be sleeping with, and it could have been empowering in a way that she talked about how her body is hers and what she decides to do with her body is no one else's decision or business. While I do enjoy the movie and I think it will get people talking, we still have a long way to go before men and women in the heterosexual world are treated the same when it comes to sexual expression.